We're back.
Take
Look,
two.
it's not a Volkswagen. We got little Jewel back in the shack. Getting carried away on that VW as I do. Some people were asking, hey, are you neglecting the little Jewel? Absolutely not. I got the tractor out and set up some rigging and got the body off and set on the work table. Remember, we took the bug off. So, yeah, we're going to get some mechanical stuff on this. That was the reason I was just messing around with the bug. We were trying to source out how do we get this thing to steer like a cab over instead of a pickup truck. Let me explain.
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Oh, you mean a half hour ago before the batteries went out?
I feel like I'm having deja vu.
Like if we could just mirror the last conversation with this one, like a split screen, and see how they add up, that would be pretty cool.
I already erased it.
Oh, because that would be pretty cool. Like
I forgot to plug the thing in.
We're getting the audio right through, but then there's a whole other like alternate universe where we're doing the same thing. That would be cool.
The same thing.
Here we have a steering shaft. Not the steering shaft we'll be using, but simply a display model. So this is the mid-90s Chevy pickup 4x4. So the cab is back here. You know, you have the hood and the engine, all that business. So the steering comes from the box back here, and you're doing your pickup truck stuff in the pickup. But as we know, little Jewel is sitting up top of this here saddle. So we want the steering coming straight down like that. So unfortunately, to mate this up, it's doable. They sell this 90-degree steering gear thing for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So I thought maybe I'll just mess around and find out.
I'm having so many technical difficulties today.
It's Sunday. It's just
Being a
one of those
YouTuber is
glitches.
not easy, guys.
Everybody thinks it's a walk in the park. TV and YouTube, it's a thing. Like, try it. I dare you.
We went to, where did we go yesterday? Tell everyone.
We went to Pomona. We went to the Pomona Fairplex where they have so many shows. The infamous Swap Meet, Grand National Roadster Show. We went to the first annual Grand National Truck Show. So I was like, man, we got to get back on that truck. You know, they got some cool stuff there. I don't even want to get into it. It's too much to discuss. We're talking about steering today.
It was super rad. We saw things kind of like Little Jewel.
Saw a couple cab overs, a couple
$1
car haulers,
builds.
$1 million builds. It is the world's most beautiful truck award. So there you have it.
I'm going to post a little video montage of it eventually. I took a bunch of cool video yesterday. So anyway, I just want to talk about that. That was fun. That's why we're tired today.
That. So, yeah, we need the steering to stand straight up, right? So, I mean, okay, well, in simplest terms, what if we tried to do that with the truck steering box? The pickup steering box, rather. I disconnected all this earlier. That's why it's coming apart so easy. So, okay, well, you take this off, right? And you stand it straight up. But then the pitman arm, that dealie there, that's the one that makes it steer. So that's way up in the air.
Sorry.
So if we were to take the steering box and set it straight up like that, or at any other angle, your pitman arm's way, way out of line. And, you know, my first response was, well, shoot, we need it down here. Why don't we just take it off and flip it, right? And it's facing down. Is that what you'd do?
Ooh, based on our previous conversation, now
you mean the one we had 15 minutes ago where I asked you the same question? And you answered correctly? I would answer just the same if I was you.
Oh, God, I don't even remember. Oh, no. It would go the opposite way.
You are correct. For the second time today in a row on the same question, you win. So when you're turning this way, right, the pitman arm is going that way, right? So if you flip it 180, then it's going the opposite way. So when you turn right, the truck is going left. And you know what? That ain't going to work. I mean, it'll work, but it'll be backwards. So you'll have to excuse me because I'm bad with names, and this was a few months ago. One fella who watches the YouTube and Instagram was like, hey man, you need like a van steering box from like about the same year, but like a heavy duty van, like a Chevy Express 2500 or something. And he said, I work at the local pickup part, the pick and pull yard, and we have one. Ooh. Behold, the van steering box. And you can see directly that the pitman arm is reversed. Exactly what we needed. But this one is designed, so I'm going to show you, right? We're going to turn it this way. Well, we'll turn it this way. It's coming up from the floor, right? Mm-hmm. Up. And when we turn this one, it's coming up as well. So it's going to steer correct, even though this is the 180 degrees out of that other box. So we're going to take that, save it for another project at the pickup truck. But the issue there becomes, well, okay, it'll bolt right back in, right? But we're in the same predicament. Even worse, because now our steering is way the heck out of the way. So I want to set it up vertically like this. So, okay, well, that'll work based on which way this thing is spinning, right? So we're taking a right turn, and it's going to make it go right. That's cool. Right turn, it's going to steer right. I like it. But the way that this idler arm pivots, it's a horizontal pivot, as was the steering box pivot. And the alignment of this center link is dependent on the arc of the swing of the steering pieces. So if I have this one swinging parallel, or if I have this one swinging horizontal or parallel with this, and this one is on a vertical pitch, this is going to rise up and down. Whereas this one is level. As this one swings, it's going to pull up and down. So if it pulls up and down, look, it's steering this tire without steering that tire. It's going to be all wonky. That's a technical term.
Like your eye. Remember we talked about your wonky eye?
It's going to be looking in two different directions like my eyeballs do. So, yeah, it's just going to wear out tires. It's going to feel unstable. Yeah. So I got to thinking, well, maybe I could just put in the old steering box as like a dead link. It's no longer live to the steering wheel. It's just going to swing and keep everything as it should be. And I thought, heck, that'll work. We just have to put the steering box somewhere to make the whole thing move, to steer. And then I got to thinking, I have another idler arm. I went back to the box. I keep all my treasure in, and I happen to have this link. It measures the same as the steering box, and it's super heavy duty. It's even more heavy duty than the one that's on the truck. And you know what the great bonus of it all was?
I already know.
It just happened. The pitch of the ball joint seat matches already. It pops right in.
Shocking. I'm shocked.
We're going to get into new territory pretty soon. This is just a quick wrap up of what just happened. So, I mean, look at that. You will have these two idler arms swinging in parallel, keeping everything aligned. I just have to create some kind of a structure to support that. And then the steering box can kind of go anywhere as long as it pushes on this center link as it should and steers it in the right direction. So I got to thinking. Had this piece of rectangle tube, very heavy, almost 1/4 inch wall, I think. That was going to work, but see, it was just a little bit shy of where I want that link to sit. See, you got some space in there. So I had this chunk of aluminum, just made a simple little spacer. Boom. I think if I weld that in, gusset really good, I think that would lock it in, like strong. Look at the idler arm structure on this one. Look how big the steel is on that. And compare it to this unit, right? I don't see any issue strength-wise, and they measure out. They're identical in length. So I think I'm going to go for this. I'm going to clean this up a bit with the wire wheel. Just tack this in place and just see how the steering works. As long as this center link isn't like twisting or getting weird up and down, front to back, the steering is going to be fine. So just do a little test on that, and then we'll figure out the steering box location and mounting. You know what my middle name is?
You don't have a middle name.
Sebastian.
Oh, Sebastian, that's correct.
It's on my social security card. I made it up.
Did you really put on your social security card?
Huh?
Did you really put that on your social security card?
No. What's the thing when you register for the military?
The draft?
On some form, yeah.
And you said your middle name is Sebastian, even though it's not?
I was in the mood. I was in the mood to be Sebastian that day. All right, let me try to untangle this mess. All right, we're getting back in. So, the little stack I just described, I'm going to bolt it up. You got the idler arm, that shim, and then this piece of tube. So this idler arm needs to weld on a bracket to the chassis.
Oh, yes,
so
I
this
see
is
what
the
you're
spacer.
saying. So basically, you kind of, when you were sitting here staring at it for an hour and a half, that was what you came
When I was motionless for no less than 90 minutes, just like this.
Yes.
That's what I was considering. So see another quick mock-up. This fits right into there. Now that space is correct onto the chassis. So I can just land it temporarily to see, and then gusset it later. This is just a mock-up. See if it's going to swing. I'm just going to set this in place, bolt it in, and just see. Yeah, that's good news. Like so many things I build, you know, we're working with a limited amount of hardware in this shop, so I got some long bolts in this. I'll change those out. Obviously that will need a lock nut on the bottom of that piece. These look very parallel to me. This is parallel, and looking at it from the front, it's parallel as well. So this is the sway bar here, and it's parallel with that. So that's what I'm looking for. Even space through here in the straight ahead steering position, and then even height. What I was describing with the steering box, if it wasn't mounted with this pivot being in the same direction as the idler arm, then it would raise up and down. So this would come up and down with the turning of the steering, making this tire toe in or out more than the other, which in simplest terms is unacceptable. I'm going to tack that on and steer it. Let me shut this door, turn off some of the wind. I'm ready.
I'm ready
Pair
too.
to tack weld. I'm going to take the weight off of this and then steer it and see what happens. That totally works. These stay parallel and the heights don't change. So that's cool, right? Like that'll work, but where's the steering wheel attached to? Right? That's the next challenge. So I'm thinking one more steering link. I'm going to cut this cross brace off for the moment because I want that steering box to land with its pitman arm right here. And I'm going to do a cross link from here to here. That way, as this pitman arm rises up or down, it's separate. It'll have a heim joint that allows that to raise and lower without raising and lowering the center link. Let me cut that and then I'll explain. So what I was describing is having this pitman arm riding with its swing parallel to that center steering link. But again, as this raises up and down, right, as this raises up and down, this link will attach over here. So it'll allow this to just stay where it needs to be for steering alignment, and this will cause the motion for the steering movement.
Oh my goodness, I think it's actually making sense.
Science. I made this plate that matches up to these bolt holes. Just a little random piece of steel. I don't know if we're going to trim it or what, but got to start somewhere. So in the casting, there's raised areas on the chassis that kind of notch into this. So if you put a flat plate up against it, it's not going to hit, see? So to remedy that, I am going to put some bolts on this side of the plate, similar to what I did here. These three, that will just act as spacers, like such, and the plate will land flat. Not rocket science, but it's going to work. So these are 7/16 bolts. That's just a 1/2-inch nut that I'm sending it through, so they don't actually tighten. They just kind of float like a thick washer. And of course, I'll order the proper hardware once I get it all fixed and working. But hey, you work with what you got. So now at least there's a piece of steel we can weld to. That'll sort of set us in the direction we want to be. And this is pretty interesting. I think we can almost tag off of this mount I just created. Just raise it up a hair. Yeah, I like this. So you can see the space here. That's not allowing this to weld as it should, but I want to bring this more forward a little bit. So if I do describe a line here and trim that, this should move forward and bring these closer into parallelity. Let me get a marker. Put a little quick mark on that. You know, this project's great so far. I have no less than 500,000 magic markers at my disposal at any moment. So let me just look at this, set it sort of in position. It's going to want to come forward about that much. Put this on the table. That's just a quick rough guesstimate. I'm trying to take as much of this off as possible to change that angle, like such. Trim that and see how it works. I'm going to run heim joints in this instead of ball joints. I'm just going to knock this out while it's sitting on the table. Junk. These things are still holding up. Highly recommend. I'm impressed. I work this stuff and they're holding up. I've seen lesser things fail. All right, cool. So instead of that tapered hole that you would see with the ball joint, I'm running these heim joints. So it's similar to a ball joint, but see there's the ball.
And that's what will make it steer eventually?
So as the steering link, remember I was saying, you want the steering linkage to be solid in those idler arms, but as this one swings on this little deal, it's going up and down, right? So this, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Just like that?
Whoop, whoop. It's going to make that noise in the cartoon default world. And that goes right there like that. Can you dig it? One on each end?
I think it's clear-ish.
Pretty swift. All right, let's see if that angle I cut is going to do anything for us. Look it, look it.
The world's most shocking monster.
Man, I really like that. I mean, seriously. You could say I'm a pro, or you could say I just luck out. Either way, I'll take it. I like this. Fire up that welder, see what we got. Thinking it's gonna float like this, that way nothing hits. You don't want any of the steering pieces to hit each other either, because they're gonna swing in an arc. Not like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but like in the swiveling type direction. Let me tack that. Alright, so I'm going to get this pitman arm dialed up out of the way and then swing the steering around and see if it's going to hit the case of the steering box. I'm hoping it doesn't, because that will make me look like I meant to do that. Let's see. Ooh. It's not hitting anything. So see, the plan is, this is a straight, so see now when I'm steering right, it's turning right. When I'm steering left.
Wow.
I can see it happening. I can see something formulating. I'm gonna pop a better weld on this. This is gonna be all gusseted. This is just theory at this point. So let me get a good strong weld on this. All right, so I described that heim joint on the other part. I'm going to clean this up quick with the sanding disc and show you how that link's going to come together. Okay, so for this end of the puzzle, I showed you how the heim joint's going to mount into the pitman arm. I got this big old slug of steel because this is solid. Heavy duty, so I figured I'd just use something that kind of matched that. Again, to be stronger than weaker, I just had this laying around. Again, big old bolt right through, ta-da. And just like you see, you know, everything, the steering stabilizer, the shock absorber, mounts to this center link. Both of the idler arms now are pierced through the center link and bolted. So this will simply be an addition. So this hole, to accept the heim joint hardware, won't be through it. This will be welded to it. I wrote that myself.
You're a poet, and you don't even know it.
And I dang well know it. So yeah, that's there. The steering is centered. Because the length of this link now, this would be considered a drag link. The length of the drag link is super important for not necessarily steering alignment between the tires, but if you want to set the steering box on center and have the tires centered, this one's not going to be adjustable. So that's why I'm making sure everything's centered. Sometimes they are adjustable, so you can, you know, sneak it a little bit. I could always adjust it later. It's theory session. That heim joint goes there. Tighten that up, and then as I mentioned, the other one's going to connect to that piece I weld in. Everything lives happily ever after. Cool. So you can really see how the heim joint works. Now it's all bolted up, right? But this is a nice loose connection. But what we're looking for is push-pull. See, there's no give in the push-pull, only in the up-down scenario. One on each side, here and here. And I have a tube that indexes on these little bosses perfectly. So I'm going to center the steering box up, cut that tube, and we're out, potentially. You can see how you have it here. The two parallel links are swinging in the stock formation, and then this, now with its different orientation on the steering pitman arm, it's swinging that way, which is simply giving the left-right motion that this steering linkage needed. seat of the pants engineering. It's gonna work. So again, here I am right here. So we have half one, half two, half three, and just a little. So we want this right in the center. So we're gonna go to 1.5, give or take. That drops that pitman arm straight down. That way you know you're steering straight. And then with these tires, we're just gonna do a quick visual. I'm guessing it's right about there. Does that look straight to you? Nope, looks like it's steering to the right. Yeah. So I'm gonna cut this rod just as a quick generic length and then fine tune it later. I'm just gonna tack it twice, but that steering linkage is gonna count. There'll be gussets through here. I'll length this in back to the chassis, probably do some kind of little X right here, and then come out with a diagonal out to here. That way this never twists. If our microphones hold out, you'll get to see all that. Let me tack that other mount of the heim joint on. And from here, Jamie, look at the steering box orientation. It's actually pointing a little forward, which is even better. Before we had the rod coming here. Now look, we're straight. I mean, we're vertical, even more than vertical. We're pointing out towards the front of the truck, which is cool because there'll be such a little bit of a curve in the steering shaft right to the wheel. It'll steer very good, I think. So yeah, we want those in the same orientation. I'm going to get underneath and give that a good solid weld in a bit, but just to wrap this up visually, we'll be able to steer it as soon as I cut this tube. I'm just going to measure from this point to this point. Right there, right there. I'll do an 8 5/8. How's that sound to you?
Perfect.
Excellent. So I'll show you how this works. This is just another one of those pieces. See the index into the tube so you get a really good weld. Yeah, 8 5/8 it is. And I was talking about adjustment, and I just realized that those heim joints do offer adjustment. I wasn't even thinking. It's perfect. I'm actually gonna make this a little shorter then. I'm gonna go 8 1/4. That way I can thread those out a little bit and utilize some of that adjustment capacity. That goes to there. And that goes to there. As I mentioned, see I did a little bit short, so I'm gonna thread that heim joint out a bit and attack this one. Just to get a little adjustment in this, I'm going to back this off a little bit. Each one, give it a little more room. We can adjust. Turn this over. All right, cool. So it looks a little bit busy because it is. But is it going to steer? It will. Let me take off this pressure, raise it up. So you're up here, you're turning the steering wheel right. Hot dang, it's going right. Try not to ruin these splines on the steering box. You know how that goes. You're up here, you're steering left. Full turn left. So you see how this little drag length is affecting that steering linkage. See the angle is it's up now because it's at full turn. And then as it comes to center, look, see it mellows out. It gets almost parallel. And that's the difference between the two angles of pivot. You couldn't have that with the steering box mounted solid. So see, it raises back up right there, see? Up, down. See how it pops up right there?
Mm-hmm.
If it was mounted hard to the chassis, it would never work. It would break. So the heim joints allow that flex.
Ah.
There you go, that steers. Heck yeah. So I'm gonna gusset all this. I'll finish the welding and we'll wrap it up in the next episode. I'm gonna put this structure back in the chassis and I'll show you how it all worked out. But the good news is it steers.
Good job.